I love Jalen Hurts. He's a former Alabama and Oklahoma quarterback. I love his story. He's a great leader. I'm rooting for the guy. But the question is, what does the film say about Jalen Hurts? And I'll be honest, when I was watching his film, I watched every game the guy played last year. I was surprised. He's better than I expected. I love him. Jalen Hurts is not ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And here's why. This is the number one problem Jalen Hurts has, is that, it all boils down to this. When his team needed him to complete passes into tight windows, he wasn't able to do it consistently enough. But that's it, really. That's the only concern I have with Jalen Hurts is, he just couldn't consistently enough complete passes into tight windows. Doesn't mean he didn't have any throws like that. He's got an average arm talent. But I will say, I think that, he's better than I thought. Now, go watch the LSU game. If you watch LSU versus Oklahoma, you'll see where Jalen Hurts' weaknesses have showed a little bit. Or his first game against Baylor. There are moments where Jalen Hurts just isn't quite, the word is, I hate this word, but it's talented enough. He's not accurate enough to compete at a high level where he's throwing guys open or throwing guys into tight windows. But here's what I did not expect to say. Here's the thing that really surprised me is, number one, Jalen Hurts is way better than I thought, but he's also really comparable to Dwayne Haskins. I know that sounds weird, and I know that Dwayne Haskins is obviously not as good a runner. Jalen Hurts is way better of a runner than Dwayne Haskins was, but when it comes to the decision-making paradigm and throwing the ball, even their mechanics, Jalen Hurts is oddly similar to Dwayne Haskins, and I actually very, very honestly think that Jalen Hurts is better than everybody's giving him credit for. Now, because it's weird, Dwayne Haskins was a first-round pick, and a unanimous first-round pick. Jalen Hurts is he going to go in the third round? People have no idea what to do with Jalen Hurts. Now, I will say, I wish Jalen Hurts drove the ball better downfield. I wish he was a tad more accurate. In fact, I'd love to see Jalen Hurts work with Jordan Palmer, train with him in L.A., because I think he could really improve his mechanics if he worked with Jordan Palmer, the quarterback trainer. But here's the crazy thing to me. Jalen Hurts made a ton of great decisions. A ton of them. Now, he's a work in progress for sure. But usually all the limitations that Jalen Hurts had were physical, was his ability to drive the ball into a tight window or be accurate enough. Coaches have to ask themselves, what would you rather teach? When a quarterback comes in the NFL, you have to teach him something. Either you have to teach him how to read a defense and how to do mental processing, or you have to teach him how to throw the ball and be more accurate and have better footwork, yada, yada. Now, usually NFL coaches draft a raw, talented guy like Josh Allen or Jordan Love or Patrick Mahomes, because they go, you know what? He's got all the arm talent. We can teach him how to read a defense. But I think if any coach has kind of an opposite philosophy, they could take Jalen Hurts and go, Jalen Hurts knows how to make good decisions. He knows when to throw the ball away, when he's extending a play. He knows how to read a defense. He's got timing down. He's got all this down. We just need to work with Jalen Hurts on accuracy and foot placement and driving the ball a little better with his mechanics. If he can do that, if Jalen Hurts can improve as a thrower, he really could succeed in the NFL. He's way better at decision-making than I would have ever thought. I was like, oh my gosh, Jalen Hurts is throwing the ball to the right spot nearly every play, actually, and he's doing high-level processing. It's really cool and interesting to watch. I loved it. Now, honestly, his habits are what I like. I love Jalen Hurts' habits. And what's really interesting is that every time I watched Jalen, he got better. 2 years ago at Alabama, he was a much, much different quarterback than he is today entering the NFL. And I believe to some degree, people totally wrote him off when he lost the job at Alabama to Tua. People stopped monitoring his growth. They're like, well, he's not good enough, bye. And people stopped paying attention. Now, the legacy to me of Jalen Hurts' college career is work ethic and consistent improvement. He was always getting better every time you watched him. And I think it's highly likely he keeps improving. Even throughout the course of the year, there was growth. He got better. As the year went on, he got better working through progressions and getting to his third and his fourth read. And he was a better passer by the end of the year. And he threw a back shoulder throw for a touchdown against Baylor in the Big 12 Championship. I went, oh, that back shoulder seam wasn't there week one. He's better at throwing. It was great ball location. I really think people struggle to change their opinion of a player or of a person. Observing growth of a person or any whether it's sports or not, when someone changes, it's hard to notice that. It's hard to pick up on it. Observing growth is difficult. I think it's why some people are even having a hard time embracing Joe Burrow as a number 1 overall pick. Joe Burrow 2 years ago was a 6th round pick, a 7th round pick. And many people still see Joe Burrow the way they saw him 2 years ago rather than what he is today. Jalen Hurts is better today than he was 2 years ago than he was even 3 years ago at Alabama. When he was a starter at Alabama and played the national championship as a freshman, he was a much different, much less polished quarterback than he is today. Jalen Hurts still has problems, but the decision-making, when I see that, when I watch the way he processes defense, he can look off the safety. There's a play where I can't remember who it is. He looks to the right. The corner comes down. The safety moves over the top. The other safety on the left side of the field moves over to the right to cover a deep dig. And the post on the backside comes wide open. He goes, bang, bang, bang. Number 4 read, throws the ball, touchdown. And you're like, that's high-level stuff, man. He's processing defenses at a crazy high level, or recognizing pre-snap, hey, there's a blitzer. I got to throw the ball to the left side to the hitch rather than taking the sack. Like little stuff like that, I go, Jalen Hurts is processing defenses at a really high level that I love. I would draft Jalen Hurts in a heartbeat. I really would, and I love him. I love his character. I love everything. But it's not just that. If you can teach him how to throw the ball a little better, he's got it. He's a franchise quarterback. It's crazy. I never thought I would have said that, but it's true. Especially if you can get Jalen Hurts in the 2nd or 3rd round, that's what my fear. The Patriots might do that. That's the thing that's scary is, what if the Patriots find a way to get Jalen Hurts in like the 2nd round and he becomes their franchise quarterback and you're like, oh, crap. He's a perfect Bill Belichick kind of guy. He could work. You got to teach him how to throw a little bit better. But Jalen Hurts is a lot better than people are giving him credit for. His big problem is throwing. And most people are like, if you have a problem throwing up, like, I think I literally heard someone say, they're like, the thing with Jalen Hurts is he struggles throwing the ball. He got benched, by the way, years ago because he struggled throwing the ball. It's like, yeah, he used to struggle throwing the ball. He's better now, but you can also teach him how to be a little better with mechanics. Little simple things with footwork would make Jalen Hurts demonstrably better. That's why I think there's one guy in the draft, if there's one person in the draft who could go in the later rounds and succeed in the NFL, like we saw Dak Prescott a couple years ago get drafted in the 4th round, come to the NFL, get better coaching, become the Cowboys franchise quarterback. Or we saw Gardner Minshew go, I think in the 5th or 6th round, starting quarterback now for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nobody saw it coming. If there's a guy you see it coming from Jalen, it's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is the kind of guy who could get totally overlooked and make it happen. And I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying it because I'm a fan of who he is, the way he carries himself. I really see on film a quarterback who has the mental processing for the NFL. He's just got to pair it up with his ability to throw the ball. If he learns how to throw the ball a little better, tweaks his mechanics, has better footwork, he's got it. And by the way, bringing Jalen Hurts into your building is the kind of move where you just can't lose. Maybe Jalen Hurts comes into your quarterback room, develops, and becomes your starting quarterback. But if nothing else, if you draft Jalen Hurts, he's such a good leader, and he's the kind of guy you want in your locker room. And he's not going to cause a problem. If he's the backup quarterback, he will not cause a problem with the starting quarterback, because when he was behind Tua at Alabama, he was fine. He was great, in fact. He was helping the team. He was high-fiving Tua. He was a positive impact on their locker room. I just think having Jalen Hurts on your football team is a positive no matter what the outcome is. He's so great, and he's so good to have around. But again, his decision-making in Oklahoma was too good to ignore. The way he processes defenses, to me, I go, Jalen Hurts is way better than I would have thought. Again, his obvious work ethic to me makes it seem to me like he's the kind of guy who could get better. He's also great at improvising and extending plays. He's really accurate in the middle of the field. There's some throws where he throws a post route to CeeDee Lamb. You're like, that's on the money into a tight window. I wish he threw the ball better on the outside and the perimeter, whether he's driving the ball on a comeback or a 10-yard out or a fade. All his throws to the sideline are not as good as they could be, but a lot of that also is footwork. If you improve your footwork, we saw this with Lamar Jackson coming out of the NFL draft, is in college he threw the ball really well down the middle of the field, but when his feet weren't pointed in the right spot, it really affected the way he threw the ball. And some of that's release, some of that's little stuff, but little mechanical things can be tweaked to make Jalen Hurts into a good enough quarterback. Now, here's the thing he cannot carry over from college. If there's one thing Jalen Hurts did in college he can't do in the NFL, it's that at Oklahoma, there were a bunch of designed quarterback runs. And hey, in the NFL, an occasional run, I love it. But if you want to extend the play, great. I love it. But let's lighten up the quarterback power in the middle. I don't want to see quarterback power where he's catching the ball, has a lead blocker, and he's running directly in the middle of the field like a running back. I don't want my quarterback doing that. I just don't think it's a good idea. And people often compare Jalen Hurts to Lamar Jackson. That's a mistake. Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts have very, very different running abilities. Lamar Jackson is lightning fast. He's the kind of guy where in an instant, he's gone. I've seen people who coached on the sideline with him, and they go, I've never seen a guy who 1 second was here and the next second was 50 yards away. And you're like, how did he do that? He's gone. That's not the kind of runner Jalen Hurts is. Jalen Hurts is more likely to lower his shoulder and run over you than he is to run around you. And that means you take a lot more hits. You get hit more often. Lamar Jackson is very smart at avoiding taking shots. That's not the case necessarily with Jalen Hurts. And maybe a team wants to put Jalen Hurts into a role similar to Taysom Hill with the New Orleans Saints. But honestly, I think he's better than being relegated to a role like that. Jalen Hurts is a guy who could develop into a franchise quarterback. I never thought I would say that, but I really think it's there. Again, I love him. Some people are scared off by his arm talent. I look at Jalen Hurts, what he did on film, the way he processes defenses, the person he is, all that stuff. I go, if I'm a coach, I would love to work with Jalen Hurts. I would love it so much. Decision-making is the hardest part about playing quarterback, and he's got that side down. He's ahead of some of the other guys when it comes to processing defenses. He's ahead of some of the guys who are going to get drafted in the first round, and that's, to me, a surprise. But because of his ability to process defenses, if Jalen Hurts goes to the right team and is given time to develop, if he's given time to develop, then Jalen Hurts could become a franchise quarterback in the NFL. In case you don't know, Strong Opinion Sports is not just a YouTube channel. It is also a full audio podcast. You can find it on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Play, pretty much everywhere you find podcasts. And if you like podcasts, please do me a huge favor and give it a listen.